It's like New York can't get any weirder, and Cuomo and de Blasio are literally doing everything they can to make life for New Yorkers even worse. Cuomo tweets breaking news. It says New York has just launched COVID Alert New York, an exposure app that will alert you if you were in contact with someone who has COVID. This app will never track your location and is completely anonymous. Protect your community and yourself and your privacy. Download the app today. And it's like, how can you actually sit here and say that this app isn't going to be able to track your location? If it obviously is tracking you via your phone. So it would have to know when you're coming into proximity to another individual who also has the app to know that you're in proximity to that individual, which means it would have to know where your phone is, which means it would have to know where your location is. Otherwise, how would the app be able to detect if you've come in proximity to another person? The other question is, will it let you know exactly in that moment? Or will a person who tested positive, because as it says there, that it tracks whether or not you've come in contact with someone who has COVID. And what it really means is that someone who, of course, has tested positive for COVID, basically is who you're going to be coming in contact with. It doesn't say whether or not the app will immediately let you know if you're coming in contact with someone in that exact moment, right? I mean, what a way to inspire fear into the people that are literally around you. Can you imagine you're walking down the street and all of a sudden your phone start to go off and it's like, you are in proximity to someone with COVID, run. And it's like, really, is this what people are trying to do? And of course, people are always saying, well, if it's the law or this is a mandate and people should follow it. I mean, if you actually read the comment section, people are like, well, hey, this is a great idea. Maybe we should do this in conjunction with some other states. Can we get some other states so that if I'm walking around like Delaware or Pennsylvania and I come in contact near someone, what if I'm on the road? What if I'm driving, right? What if I'm driving on the highway? All of a sudden my phone goes off and the guy next to me in the lane over next to me, he starts going off saying that this individual has COVID. Am I going to swerve over into the next lane? I mean, what a divisive app that this is for New Yorkers. I mean, talk about trying to split people apart, right? Instead of doing what we can to get individuals to come together, literally the government is working to separate people, to pit people against other individuals. They've done it with race, and now they're doing it, of course, with this virus under the guise, of course, that it says protect your community, right? Protect yourself and protect your privacy. How about we just don't download the app? And then I don't have to worry about my privacy. I'm already protected. I thought the whole point of wearing masks and social distancing was enough. Clearly, it's not, at least according to Cuomo. And yet every day, Cuomo comes online, comes onto Twitter, and he posts every single day about the numbers, right? Every single day he talks about the numbers. He says of the 109,000 that were tested, 1,100 were tested positive, 1.27% of the total. Total hospitalizations are 612. This is sadly, there were 11 COVID fatalities. And then, of course, you can look at the map. You can look at the graph here, and the graph tells you, again, what does COVID-19 look like in terms of hospitalizations here in New York? Almost non-existent. 612 out of all the hospitals in New York, right? Total hospitalizations, right? Non-existent. The whole purpose of this was to flatten the curve. Everything was flatten the curve, so that nurses like me don't become overwhelmed with too many patients. And that was the reality during this time period right here, where there were too few staff members for too many patients. One of the reasons was because people disappeared. There was so much hype about how deadly this virus was that people just didn't show up to work. There were many times where I'd come into work and it would be me and 2 or 3 other individuals, and normally where you'd have like 3 patients, maybe on a not so great night you had 4, on a bad night you had 5. Most of these nights we had between 5 and 6 patients. Most of these patients, of course, were elderly individuals who can have experienced things like confusion as the person doesn't get enough oxygen to the brain. So it becomes difficult to manage these patients when they become confused. So you're typically in and out of the room nonstop. And of course, when these individuals become acutely ill, it makes it hard as a nurse to be able to give enough care to the individual, right? To be able to lay eyes on your patient, to see how your patient is doing behind closed doors, because all the doors in the hospital during this time period, during the peak, all the doors were closed so that we didn't basically spread the air into the hallway and then contaminate, I guess, other individuals. This was the logic that, of course, was used during this time period, right? But as you can see, there is no peak, right? We can see that the curve has been flattened to the point of almost non-existence. Like I said, currently the census is really low. It's been that way for quite some time. Most of us are more worried about losing our job or being furloughed or being laid off than worrying about spikes in cases and managing, these sick individuals. Again, a lot of what has been going on is not in relation to the science, has nothing to do with the actual numbers. Because if they really wanted to give you a lot of information, like I said previously in other videos, they would tell you how many of these individuals, of course, that have tested positive have gone to the hospital, right? How many of them were elderly? How many of those people who tested positive are actually showing symptoms of the virus? How many of them are coming in for shortness of breath, who are febrile and have, of course, that dreaded dry cough that was talked about way back when? That's information that you do not have. And the question is, why? Why don't you have that information? Why are we given the least amount of information? But of course, when it comes to things like this, the government is more than happy to protect you with apps like this. And of course, they promise we're not tracking you. Of course not. Probably been paying too much attention to Jeff Bezos, who, if you've seen some of the new stuff that Amazon has come out with.
Amazon smart speakers have a whole new look, and they can look at you. Animal faces. And speaking of going round, this year's new Echo Show, the one with the screen, yeah, it also goes round and around. It swivels to follow you around wherever you walk.
Amazon has come out with this little device that it's like a little monitor that you can basically have like Zoom calls and stuff like that, and it basically swivels with you. It's got a little camera in it, and it tracks you. Not only that, they've got a new device, of course, a new app that you can download to your phone that tests and tracks how you speak, so that it monitors your tone, and it can let you know when you're too harsh, when you're too abrasive, if you're speaking too softly, and it can basically give you tips on how to change the pitch of your voice to make it more appealing to the individual, to the love of your life, as the app is pushed as more of an app for like married people, so that they can adjust how they speak to one another. Isn't that lovely? They can track you in your home, and they have there's another little device that's like a floating camera in case someone breaks into your home, and then the camera comes on, and then it can basically float throughout the house. Some real interesting, scary stuff in terms of being invasive within your home. And of course, we're seeing even the government is trying to do this. The sad part is if you actually listen and look at some of the comments, people are like, hey, this is what China did. This would be a great idea. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what we want. We want our government here in America to be more like China. What? I swear, man, between the numerous jobs that have been lost here in New York, the number of companies that have left, and then now this, it's like, what are you doing? You really don't know what you're doing. And the sad part is that people buy into this hook, line, and sinker, not realizing that they're just being misled. as it says here, is a work in conjunction. Look, it even says COVID Alert New York will work in conjunction with similar apps in Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, allowing for regional exposure notifications. I keep telling you, if you don't put up a fight, if you don't take a stand, this will only get worse.